bizarrely, some mornings I still wake up and try to stand up out of bed. So you'd really thought I'd learned this by now, that I can't stand up and walk. Yet for some reason my body's like, yes. And I was like, that didn't work. I thought I really would have learned by now, but apparently no, my body is not that smart. Hi, I'm Claire, I'm 33, I'm from Cambridge, although I used to live in Leeds, and I'm a wheelchair racer / student. I've got a variety of medical conditions. I'm unable to eat because I've got something called enteric neuropathy, which has caused multi-organ failure, so none of my intestinal organs work properly. So as well as the intestinal failure, I've got something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, which has a variety of symptoms, including things like hypermobility and dislocations and subluxation. But had I not got Ehlers-Danlos, I probably wouldn't have had the accident that sort of changed my life. So for my accident, I'd gone on holiday with some friends from university. We'd gone out to Florida to spend 2 weeks on roller coasters, and we decided on the first day when we got there that there was like a cable park, water skiing, was doing fine, and fell forwards, and unfortunately managed to, rather than fall into the water, hit my head on the skis, jerked my head back, and damaged the ligaments and the vertebra at C2 and C3. It's had a progressive impact on my mobility. So I presented originally with leg weakness, which has become more and more prominent, and then I sort of developed upper limb weakness as well. So I've got I can't walk. I've got quite poor grip and upper limb strength. Although it has been 13 years, it looks like we have finally come upon the correct diagnosis, which is a form of atlantoaxial subluxation, which is a disorder of the C2 and C3 vertebrae, which mean that they don't stay in place properly and they slide around. And to most people that might sound like a bad thing, but actually in terms of my wheelchair racing, the most fundamental thing for me is that it means that I should be able to be classified, and unless I become a classified wheelchair racer, I can't go further forwards with sort of international competitions, and obviously therefore could never go to Tokyo. I really want to go to Tokyo in the Paralympics to be the world's first international Paralympic champion on intravenous nutrition, because we've always been told that it isn't possible to be this active on intravenous nutrition, that it just isn't possible. Just because nobody's done it doesn't mean it's impossible. So it's only impossible until it's been done. TPN is total parenteral nutrition, which is intravenous feeding. So intravenous nutrition is so important to me because, quite simply, without it, I wouldn't be here, let alone being able to race. I just wouldn't exist. I would have died of malnutrition. It comes with huge risks. There are risks of liver failure, of bloodstream infections, which can become septic. I've been septic a lot of times, not necessarily because of my TPN, but because of other complications. And so you do know that each day you do run those sort of risks, but I think it shows to me more than ever that, life is fleeting and it's so easy for it to go away, and that actually you do have to make the most of what time you've got and look for the opportunities and, try everything you want to do, because there's no point putting things off for a rainy day, because some people don't get those rainy days. My day-to-day life, for me, is just my day-to-day life. My mornings usually start with disconnecting 1 or 2 of my IVs. So I've got my feed that runs, but I also run infusion of medication overnight as well, because I have really severe reflux, which puts fluid from my stomach into my lungs and has given me a lung disorder as an extra complication of the rest of this. And then I go off and sort of have my medication through the tube that goes directly into my bowel, my jejunostomy, because I can't put medication straight into my stomach because it won't go anywhere. And we have to have my stomach on drainage so that I don't flood my lungs too often with stomach fluid. Lovely. Sorry, this is all very lovely discussions. Then my days are fairly standard, really. I either sort of do some studying or I train, which is obviously much more exciting. If I'm training, usually I'll do a mobilization session first, so that's sort of a dynamic warm-up, and then do whatever session that the coach has set me for that day. I also do a strength conditioning session at the local gym, so we do some weights, and then I'll go do my run as well. Then my evenings are mostly spent doing a bit more medication and then sleep and repeat, basically. It's pretty much like everybody else's day, just with a lot more medical chaos than sort of the standard person, and probably a lot more sport as well. I've always been very sporty. Sort of before my accident, I was a rower and I rowed briefly with the University Women's Development Squad, then had my accident, had a long time out of sport. As soon as I was back to being sort of even half well enough to be back in a boat, jumped back straight into rowing basically, and within 6 weeks ended up at the national championships where I somehow came second. And then so I had some time out due to my health, sort of had a bit of a sort of downturn in things, starting wheelchair racing, and it was sort of one of those sort of not really planned transitions, but one that I've absolutely loved. It's sort of been really good for me. Sort of, I think because as much as I love rowing, and rowing will always be in my blood, the ability as a wheelchair racer means that I can get my chair to places by myself. I can be completely independent, whereas with rowing, I had to make sure that there was somebody around to get the boat out, make sure there's somebody around the bank to make sure that sort of I was safe. Racing has just got the best feeling ever. It's just that, you know, like if you've got the roof down in your car and you're driving really quickly and it's just got that beautiful wind and just sort of that feeling of peace. It's a bit like that, but you're doing it yourself. It's amazing. And sort of because obviously I can't run anymore, obviously, so it's the only way I can sort of get that full speed and sort of that feeling of sort of freedom. I thrive on that sort of other people being around there. I don't care that they're male and they've got a lower impairment class than me. I still want to be as fast as them. I want to be better than them. So looking forward, had I been classified already, then this year I would have been considered third fastest in the world at the 100 metres women for that classification. I don't think that's too bad going for my first season, really. So it's definitely a start. I want to be, but it's not enough. I want to be first fastest. I want to be the world's fastest. There's no third is not good enough. I want to be the world's fastest. I want to be breaking world records. You know, I want to make my mark. You know, sort of. I can't settle for third place. It's just not enough. Sorry. And people say to me, "Oh, you know, do you ever regret your accidents?" Well, I can't really regret it. It happened. If we avoided doing anything because something might happen, we never get out of bed. You know, so it's like we can't live in that fear. You know, as they always say, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow, which, you know, let's hope nobody does. But it is. So you can't just be held back by that fear. You know, okay, fine, don't get out of bed because you're scared of something happening, but then something will happen because you're stuck in bed all day. So you just got to go for it. There's no other option, really.